Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte Clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
When you pick up some scratches, cause you want a fun break, the playful way you scratch is the next choice you should make. You can make your dog's leg kick and scratch with that. You could even grab a laser pointer and use your cat. You can build yourself a homemade scratching machine or use a piece from your chess set. Go ahead, grab the queen. Scratch like a DJ with your record player. A cactus could scratch off that scratchable layer. Cause when it comes to scratching, there's a million playful ways. Thanks to scratchers from the California Lottery, a little play can make your day.
Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase, play, or claim.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
New activation and upfront payment for 3-month plan required. Taxes and fees extra. Additional restrictions apply. See mintmobile.com for full terms.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served. Hi, I'm Detective Dave. I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood. So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished. From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly minisode where we dig into the things that we've been watching recently. I'm Terry.
I'm Mary Beth. This week we're chatting about The Further, a true crime docuseries, Sweeney Todd, but with empanadas and weed. We check in with our favorite underdog chefs, and then lastly we travel to Lithuania for a new slasher.
It's a lot here, and I'm glad that we're getting a lot here because for those that don't know, this is going to be the last Little Cuts that we do for about a month-ish. Mary Beth is doing a secret project.
Yeah, I can't say much, but I am doing a project, and I will be in the middle of nowhere for 3.5 weeks, so I will not be able to record. So we're going to be on a brief Little Cuts hiatus. We'll still have full episodes, and as patrons know, we have paused Patreon for the month just because it's just not going to be possible to record. Right. And also my schedule got moved up much, everything's happening much quicker than I thought. So we thought
we had almost the entire month to prep in advance and
no. So we're just being flexible and we're adapting. Loosey-goosey, flexible really is giving me an exercise in learning spontaneity and not having to have every single moment of my life planned out, because that's not possible with what I'm doing.
And probably some patience.
Yeah. Well, that I have, weirdly enough. Shocking, I know, but professionally I have more patience than it might seem on the podcast. But anyway, so
I think you're a patient person.
I try to be. But yeah, so
Little Cuts will be gone. So,
yeah.
But we promise it'll come back.
It will. It's coming back when I'm back. It's just,
yep.
I don't have a lot of time to record whilst I'm away. Or watch anything, to be real, honestly. Like, I would probably be so boring if, again, like, I would be boring. Because I'm not going to have a lot of time to watch my own shit. Oh, shit! Cool! Thank you so much. Whoa. That's weird in a good way. I'm sorry. I'm really bad at taking compliments and, like, being perceived on the internet. So it's bad.
For our listeners, Glaive is in our comments and says that they've been a fan of MB since they used her MFA essay as a source for a research paper a few years ago. And that's fucking cool.
My MFA piece I wrote for, I think, Bright Wall Dark Room. Oof, that was a rough one. Yeah, MFA is very good.
I need to watch MFA. I've never seen it.
You have to. And hard to watch, but it's real good.
What if we did a series on rape revenge?
I mean, I will gladly guide you through.
I don't think I could do like a long series, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But
I would source the good ones, though. The ones that aren't like horrendous to watch and aren't just like a slog to get through. They're still emotionally exhausting. Like, it's not going to be easy. Anyway, we can check it.
Yeah, but just an idea.
And I even have some rape revenge movies that involve men that are victims of sexual assault, which is very, very hard to find. So,
all right. Enough about this. Let's talk about what we've seen this week. Let's talk about The Further. I'm very excited to hear about this one because I haven't seen it yet.
So I have the great pleasure in sharing that Insidious 5, The Red Door, is actually pretty good.
Good.
It has no right to be as good as a fifth installment of a franchise like this should be. And, like, I'm not
let's be honest. The Insidious is, like, all over the place in terms of, like, quality. So, yes, the fact that the fifth one is actually good in a series with a first-time director as well, that's wild.
It's wild. So, Daddy Patrick Wilson, who is also the star, Alexa played Daddy as fuck by Slater. Yes, Tony, that is correct. Patrick Wilson, who has been the star of the Insidious franchise, as well as the Conjuring franchise, he's directing this one. And so this one comes back to the Lambert family. So the first two films are about the Lamberts, who are haunted by... They realize that the men can astral project and all this crazy shit. 3 and 4 were prequels that were kind of about Lynn Shay's character, Elise. And now 5, we are back with the Lamberts 10 years after what happened in the first two. And all of the people who were in the first one, most of them reprise their role in the family. So, like, Ty Simpkins is back as Dalton, and then the two other kids are back too. And so also Rose Byrne is actually in it for a decent chunk of time. And obviously Patrick Wilson. And so here, Dalton, it's been 10 years. They don't remember what happened after the second one. But now that Dalton is away at school and he's on his own, he is starting to have nightmares of a red door. And he is it's basically a whole story about, like, trying to repress trauma and then, like, knock, knock, like, pretty literally, like, who's at the door. It's a demon.
It's your girl trauma.
It's your girl trauma. But, like, it's not done in a super annoying, heavy-handed way. I mean, I was actually pretty surprised how well it was handled in terms of, not trying to be too heavy-handed with the trauma stuff, but, like, still doing it in a way that it's, like, pretty... Like, they know what they're doing, but they're not trying to make it this, like, deep movie. It's also, like, a little bit of a slower burn, like, focusing kind of on Patrick Wilson and Ty Simpkins' like, parallel healing processes and how they're processing what's happening to them. And, like, I don't know. It's definitely, like, a mid-plus movie. Like, it's not perfect. I am not here to tell you it's a masterpiece. But I'm here to tell you there's some really good scares. And, like, again, I'm not, like, super familiar with the rest of them. Like, I've seen 1 and 2. Oh, no, I've seen all of them except for 4. So I don't know what I'm talking about. I just don't remember it.
I've not seen 4.
I haven't seen 4. 3 had some good scares, but, like, it's iffy. But this one, I don't know. This whole returning back to the Lamberts, I think it was really well done for what it is. The CAT scan thing and the ad, Tony, that scare is incredible. I also haven't watched any of the ad. I know I work in horror, but I try so hard not to watch the trailers even when I post them because, like, trailers give so much away, and I just, like, and I have this problem, I don't know if it's a problem, but this habit where, like, I will lock on to parts of the trailer and find them in the movie, and then so I can, like, time mark where things are and, like, what things are happening, and so...
I do the same thing.
It's just, like, it's not a bad thing, it's just, like, it's not my favorite. I don't really like, it feels like I'm trying to seek something out to match it an ad rather than like watching the movie. So yeah.
I feel I'm not present in the movie when
I'm
looking for like those ad things.
Yeah. Well, it makes me feel better that I'm not the only person that does that.
No, you're not. I am exactly the same way.
It's a weird OCD thing, but
yeah. No, I mean, it might be. I don't know, but I do the same thing, which is why I stayed away from the Cobweb trailer. And we can't talk about the movie yet.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that I didn't watch the trailer before I watched the movie. We can't talk about it. Sorry, and you're not going to hear us talk about it on Little Cuts. But yeah, I'm the same way. The more I go to see movies, the less I want to know about it, it seems like, because I will do that. I did the same thing with Evil Dead Rise, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and like, this is like not a new take, and everyone says it. I just like, trailers have too much a lot of the time.
They do.
They just spoil too much, and I think it's just like, it's not. I don't need to know at this point.
For every Barbarian trailer, there are too many that spoil everything.
And, like, I already have so many thoughts about Insidious. I don't need a trailer to, like, further try to sway me one way or another. And, again, like, they're trying to market to a wider audience here. Like, it's not me, obviously. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that I am not a monolith and / don't represent other people's marketing stuff. But, like, yeah, I try. I've just started to try to avoid them at all costs.
I'm glad it's good, though.
Yeah, it's out this weekend, so if you want to go see it, it's gonna be fun. It's either going to be really fun to see in a theater, or people are just gonna be really loud. So, like, it's definitely gonna be a movie that's gonna get people, like, yelling and stuff. And so if you don't want that experience, don't see it this weekend. But if you're cool with that kind of, like, communal, some people hate that shit, and, like, whatever. But just so you know, this is a movie that's, like, gonna have people, like, hooting and hollering in their seats.
I'm excited because the entire cast is back. Like, that...
I know
love this, that we could have a movie 10 years later that is having the original cast.
It's neat.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And again, Ty Simpkins, not a bad actor. Good for him. Good for him.
Good.
So we're going to, like, go right from the further back to reality here with a true crime docuseries. Tell me everything.
Yeah, so I have a weird relationship with true crime. I do feel like it sometimes not necessarily glamorizes, but hypes up maybe the more lascivious aspects of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so it makes me uncomfortable sometimes when I watch it, because I think, these are real people and we're watching it almost as entertainment. So I was a little hesitant about this, but I'm covering this new series that's premiering on HBO Max, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's going to be HBO Max for me, probably for the rest of my life.
Who knows?
But it's a new series. It's premiering this coming Sunday, and it's going to be a 4-part series. It's called Last Call: When a Serial Killer Stalked Queer New York. And it is about...
okay.
Yeah, so it's set as sort of like the AIDS crisis is intensifying in the early 90s. It's set in New York, where cops have found parts of a body that had been strewn across the New Jersey Turnpike in bags. And a maintenance worker ends up finding the head of a victim in a bag that rips when he's trying to get it out of a truck.
Fuck that.
Yeah. And so then it kind of follows that initial murder, and then come to find out that a year earlier there was another closeted gay man that was killed after going to this bar called the Townhouse in New York, which was catering mostly to upper class closeted businessmen, basically. And they find out that another person was killed, his body parts strewn across the New Jersey Turnpike. I think that's where that was. I'm not 100% sure about that last part, but it was striking very similar notes. And so I've only seen the first episode right now, but this first episode takes that kind of horrifying case and uses it to sort of explore what it was like to be queer in New York in that time frame. So they have interviews with the police that were working the case, which a lot of the queer people still distrust to this day. And it kind of explores this sort of institutional disinformation, misinformation, willful ignorance, whatever you want to call it, from the police, as well as this anti-violence advocacy group called AVP, Anti-Violence Program, I think, that was a queer funded program that I didn't even know about that ran in New York, and they even had like a local television show that was like Gay Hour, and it was like gay news, and they would cover hate crimes, they would cover things to tell people, the queer people, about that were affecting this time. And so it sort of is using these two people initially. I think there's going to be more as sort of a framing device to sort of explore the sort of homophobia that we would see in the 90s, as well as focusing on the people that were trying to do something good for queer people who were also queer, as well as sort of exploring the love lives of the people. Like we get to see the daughter who found out posthumously that her dad was queer, as well as the other man, his kind of lover, that a relationship kind of unfolded over the course of decades. And so they have all these really interesting interviews. So Tony asked if the first episode reveal who the killer is. No, they didn't. And I don't really know anything about it. I'm trying to go in sort of cold on this. So I don't know who the killer is. But the first episode did what I want to see from true crime. It used this as sort of like a way to explore institutional biases against queer people and how isolated and alone queer people are. And I think it's an important part of queer history to look back at what has happened before and to see how tenuous our rights are, because there's a lot of things that this series talks about that I think still finds relevance, unfortunately, to today. So I think it's going to be really good. I've only seen the first episode, so I don't know if it's going to really leer into the more lurid details. But what I'm seeing so far is the makings of a very interesting, multifaceted docuseries about queer life in 1991, as well as the fact that the serial killer stalking New York. I'm covering it with Joe Lipset of the Horror Queers. So if you guys are following along with it, we're going to be writing reviews and all that kind of stuff for it, for the next 4 episodes. So follow along with us if you are watching it. But yeah, that's Last Call. And it premieres the 9th of July, this Sunday, on HBO Max.
All right, well, now I'm looking into this killer, and now I'm like, uh-oh, another serial killer for me to look into. But anyway.
Yeah.
The book is supposed to be really good, too. The book was supposed to be, like, apparently...
book?
The book, it was like, I'm looking at it, the book was kind of praised for how it shifted looking at the victims and not the killer. Okay. And so I'm assuming the documentary is going to follow that. I think it's going to be less about sensationalizing him and more talking about, like, the queer community in New York. Which is good. I mean, like, it doesn't need to be some... I think that, yeah.
Because like what I really liked and what really kind of broke my heart is this sort of like this older man that they're interviewing who had hooked up with one of the victims and had been friends with him, and then that kind of blossomed to a relationship while they were both kind of on the down low, and just sort of like seeing him talk about this person was like, whew, it got me emotional, just because like you see like how much they had to hide who they were in this time in particular, and it hits hard. It's like particularly so watching it I watched it the day after the SCOTUS announcement.
Oh, cool! So, yeah, awesome. Well, and it's just like so important for people to continue to see queer elders to both remember our history as queer people, and like to understand like baby queers right now who are like very much in the age of the internet, just like. I'm not saying they're going to watch this, and I'm not trying to be mean to, like, younger queer people who are learning things, but, like, this is the kind of thing that's, like, important for young queer people to see. I mean, all queer people, but especially young queer people, for a lot of reasons, to understand where we came from, to understand how far we've come, to, like, understand this puritanical attitude that we seem to now be having about sex and sexuality is incredibly harmful, and I think this... Again, I don't think it's probably going to hit that audience necessarily, but it's still an important piece of media to have out there about, like, understanding what repression and this kinds of puritanical attitudes, like, led to in, like, so many different ways, not just in reactions to AIDS crises, but, like, I won't spoil anything because I was reading about it on Wikipedia, but, like, the killer and stuff like that. Like, it's just, I think these kinds of things are so important. And also understanding queer, like, there's been queer love for so long. Like, this is not a new thing. Yeah. Queer love has existed. And again, this is not that long ago either, so it's not like that groundbreaking. No. But still, like, queer love is not new. Queer love is not some, like, new manufactured thing by people to, like, be woke. Like, queer love has always existed, and queer love has always been around, and queerness has always been a thing. And I think these kinds of documentaries that are willing to engage with that and talk about that are so important, especially if it's not going to sensationalize it and not be like, ooh, gay men, instead of like, yeah, there was a vibrant queer community in New York City. Of course there fucking was. So
right, exactly.
Anyway, on my queer history high horse for a second.
Well, no, I think it really is important because you can see how far things have come, yes, but you can also see how tenuous our grasp is on basic rights. And as we know, the majority writes history. And so it's the little things like this that I didn't know about. I mean, I would have been, I guess would have been 10 when this first started happening. But like none of this was ever broadcasted to me. Like this isn't something that I knew about. And so I think it's important that we have people talk about a history that is rarely ever seen outside of these niche projects. And I don't know, as a queer person, you got to know where we come from and all the hard fights that we've had to have over decades in order to see where we are now and to see how we can continue to thrive. So
yeah,
I think this is important. I'm hoping that it stays. I'm hoping that this first episode is like a thesis to what the rest of the show is going to focus on.
Yeah.
Because I'm really enjoying this so far, and I want it to be respectful and good.
Yeah.
So, wow. Wildly swinging, but also in New York still?
Yep.
Let's talk about Sweeney Todd with empanadas and weed.
Okay, so this is the new Prime Video show, The Horror of Dolores Roach, which is a Sweeney Todd type story, but with Dolores Roach as our anti-hero / complicated protagonist. She was wrongfully incarcerated for, I believe, 16 years for possession of marijuana. And she comes back to her home in Washington Heights, where she lived and grew up. And it has been 16 years and everything has changed. The place where she used to live is gone. All of the people she knew are gone. It's been gentrified. But what she finds is still left is a little empanada shop run by a kid she used to know, Louise. And he says, I will give you a place to stay for as long as you need it. And I'll give you as much weed as you want. And you can eat empanadas and you have a place to stay. And she, reveals that her roommate, her cellmate in prison, Tabitha, taught her how to be a massage therapist. So she's a massage therapist and starts making money that way. And then, as you do, cannibalism somehow gets involved in terms of accidental deaths and cutting up people to put in empanadas. And hilarity ensues in a funny but dark as shit stoner comedy / cannibal horror movie that's almost exclusively Black and brown actors. Justina Machado is the lead. She plays Dolores Roach, and she's fucking incredible. And she is she's it's not older. It's not the right word, but she is not a young Latina woman who is bisexual and is a chaotic kind of a bitch, but means well. And she's a stoner, and it's really good writing. It's ridiculous, but of course Sweeney Todd is ridiculous. If you're going into this expecting anything kind of realistic, you don't have the right attitude for the show. But the writing is just so fucking wacky and fun and gross and just the right amounts of fucked up and weird and funny and nice and sweet and family. Found family. It's just wild. And I know that you've only watched the first episode. I have watched all of them. It's 8 episodes, 30 minutes each. And I think this is so good. And it's based on a podcast. It was a stage play, and then it was a podcast, and then now it is a show. I don't know. I just think it's fun. I think it's doing so many things that so many shows should be doing. It's funny. It's weird. I don't know, man. It's just neat.
It's just neat. I love.
I just think it's neat. It's just neat. It's good.
It is. I wanted to watch the entire series before we recorded because I knew you had seen it. You had liked it. I had screeners. I've only seen the first episode because this weekend was a lot of me not doing a lot of things. So.
Valid. Absolutely valid.
But the first episode immediately pulled me in, and I cannot wait to see where it's going to go with its Sweeney Toddness. So I'm glad to hear that It is good. Yeah, Tony, let's not talk about Diablo 4 and the tension it has pulled on my life. It is bad. It is bad, but it was so good.
Yeah. So if that, it all comes to Prime this Friday. So it's as of the release of this podcast, they should all be out on Amazon or on Prime Video. But yeah, it's fun. And gross. So, my two favorite things.
Fun and gross.
Kind of, I know it's not exactly the same, but we're sticking in the kitchen. Our favorite underdog chefs.
We're just moving from New York, where one of the characters did work, to Chicago with the second season of The Bear. Now, I've only watched a few episodes of the second season because, again, Diablo. But I just wanted to say that if you have not watched the first season of this show, go binge it right now.
I gotta binge it. I gotta finish watching it. I know the second season is the fucking best. Ugh. Why is there so much to watch?
Okay,
you fucking
I
asshole.
know,
Stop
that's the
making
problem.
content.
There's so much coming out. But okay, so I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. The first season is kind of about these underdog chefs coming together in this old school sandwich shop in Chicago. And it was a family run. The person that owned it had unfortunately committed suicide, and his one of his brothers is now coming to sort of run it. His brother was an executive chef in New York, where he was working at a very fancy restaurant, and so he has some knowledge, and he's trying to get this kitchen up and running and make it profitable, to honor his family. And last week I talked about Ayo Edebiri.
Oh yeah, Ayo Edebiri.
Ayo Edebiri, who was in Bottoms. She is also, of course, one of the stars of The Bear, and she is absolutely fantastic. Season 2 picks up. So season 1, all I will say is that it ends with sort of a Deus Ex Machina that kind of bothered me, because it felt like it was solving problems without the characters actually solving problems. Well, this first episode of season 2 says, yeah, that was a nice thing. However, in order to make this restaurant into what Carney, the main character played by Jeremy Allen White, who I find so incredibly attractive in a weird way.
Douchebag sexy.
Yeah. He is trying to make his restaurant into something a lot bigger than what it started out as. And so they have some money. They are trying to basically stretch that money as much as possible and get new funding to create a restaurant that he wants to see. And so I've only seen a few of the first episodes, but it felt like, when you go back to characters that you love and it just feels like you're coming into home, and it just sort of like, oh, I miss this. That is how I feel about the show. I could have easily binged it this weekend because that first episode grabbed me, but I'm trying really hard to like savor each episode because they're only 30 minutes long. There's only 10 of them. I know if it gets renewed, it's going to be another year before I get to watch them. So I'm trying to like pull out as much joy as possible from this. And I have to say, if people thought the first season wasn't funny, I thought it was very funny in a very cringe humor, dark humor sort of way. This season is really kind of embracing the funny, I think, because we have characters established and the writers are more confident in what they want to build. Like, we're seeing a lot more fun things start to happen and more character interactions that I really like. So I can't wait to see where the season's going to go. No spoilers. I love this. I love them. And it's The Bear. All 18 episodes from season 1 and 2 are streaming on Hulu right now. So if you're looking for a binge, they're 30-minute episodes. They go quick. Episode 7 of season 1 remains probably the best 30 minutes of television. I think it's actually 24 minutes of television that I've seen. I think it is so good. It is one long take in a kitchen where shit is hitting the fan, and it is really good. And I cannot wait to see if they do something similar in season 2. But yeah, that's The Bear. I love it. Go watch it now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably gonna do that after this.
Because you watched a few episodes with your parents,
I
right?
I did. It's just like...
Your mom's a chef.
Because my parents are chefs, and they love The Bear. Like, they love The Bear because it's just, like... It's funny watching with them because they're like, oh, yeah, that's, like... They just, like, point out the things that, like, are real / make sense. Like, or they get, like, stuff they kind of understand in the kitchen because they both also come from, like, more fine dining and also, like, shitty kitchens. So they have that experience. And, like, understand that world in a really interesting way. So it's cool to watch it with them and get their perspective on it. But they've watched all of season 2, I think, already, and they love it. So
that's so cool.
Yes.
You know, a movie that I really want to watch because someone told me after I watched that episode 7 and I loved it, someone told me to watch The Boiling Point, which I guess is a whole movie done in one take in a kitchen on one night of like the kitchen like probably going to hell and a handbasket too.
How have I not?
I agree, Tony. One take movies are so rad. I find them very fascinating.
Oh, I've heard of this. Okay. That sounds like I would shit my pants.
To watch. 6 takes total. Wow.
Yeah, that movie fucked my ass up, by the way, Tony. Kidnapped is fucked up. It's so good, but it's fucked up. It's like our extreme horror vibe bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, it's that.
All right, so I don't really know how to segue into this one, but
yeah, there's no good way.
We're traveling to Lithuania for a new slasher, which I love me some slashers.
So this is the new Screambox slasher called We Might Hurt Each Other, also known as Pensive, but the English title is We Might Hurt Each Other. This was one of the last things I watched, Chattanooga, that I really loved. Basically follows a group of high school students who have just graduated from high school, and they're going on a trip. And it's like their entire class. And their entire class goes on the trip to this, like, remote location. There's these weird, like, folk dolls around. They all get fucked up, start fucking with the dolls, being disrespectful, being little shits. And then a slasher villain comes along and just starts fucking wrecking kids. And, like, when I say it was like 50-ish kids, and, like, they're getting fucking destroyed. And that is... It takes a little bit to kind of build up. At first, it's like a little bit like I was a little bit like, all right, I get it. Like, this guy sucks. Like, we're getting up. Like, it's like the character development parts that like can be a little bit slow, but once it hits the violence, it's just like, holy shit. The kills are gnarly. It's a mean ass movie. Like, it's quite good. It is quite good, and it has a
fuck them kids. The movie.
It is, and it's very much like a It's like a folk horror slasher, which is like super cool. And I wish there was more folk horror in it, but I really liked seeing this take like from it's Lithuania's first slasher, not shocking. And so it's really quite good and fucked up and weird, and it looks really good. And it's coming to Screambox this month, so if you have Screambox or like you want to do a trial, it'll be there. And I really enjoyed it. I was quite impressed. And I've been hearing about it at festivals and stuff, and so I was excited to check it out. And it's pretty gnarly. So yeah, that is We Might Hurt Each Other. I keep forgetting.
That's exciting.
There's so many titles that are coming out that are like what? Can we go back to The Outwaters and Skinamarink, like one-word titles that aren't like a goddamn sentence where I'm like, I don't remember the order of the words. There's too many prepositions and conjunctions and shit to remember.
I feel like particularly young adult novels and movies right now are taking like a cue from the early emo bands with like song titles that were like a paragraph long. I just feel like the titles are just getting ridiculous.
Yep. So that is that movie. And again, that's coming to Screambox this month. So it's one of those Chattanooga movies I actually know when and where you will be able to see it. Also, real quick, how are you enjoying Final Fantasy 16? Because that is all my husband has been playing for a couple of weeks.
I'm not as far in it as I wanted to be. I had planned to play a lot of it this weekend, and that kind of fell through. But I am about, I think, halfway through the game, and I love it. I love it so much. It's not so much an RPG anymore as it is sort of like, I don't know, it reminds me, like, people are talking about how it's obviously pulled from Game of Thrones, and I guess I can see that. I don't think it's Game of Thrones-ish, but like about it is it reminds me a little bit of another Square Enix game that they made called Nier Automata.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me of sort of like a little bit of that in terms of like the way the world is presented. But I don't know. It's very interesting. The men in it are so incredibly hot. Daddy.
I know. Every time I walk by, I'm like, who are these hot men? Just like on my television screen.
Well, and Sid, who is a hot daddy for sure in this, is voiced by Ralph Ineson. Is that his name?
Oh, yeah. Because I was like, I'm sorry, is that Ralph Ineson's
which,
voice like coming out of my television in a Final Fantasy game?
Which is ironic because he also plays a character in Diablo 4, and both games were released within like a month of each other, and so I'm getting his dulcet tones in Diablo 4, and then I go play Final Fantasy, and I'm hearing his dulcet tones again, and I'm like, ugh, just talk to me.
On that daddy note, who are we talking to on Monday?
Okay, so on Monday we are talking with Nick Kozakis, who he's a music video director and a horror movie director. You know his music video if you've listened to Tones and I's Dance Monkey. He did the music video for that and a number of other Tones and I music videos, as well as some horror shorts. And his latest film is called Godless, The Eastfield Exorcism, which Mary Beth talked about and said something to the effect of your stomach in your asshole while watching it.
That sounds like something I'd say.
To paraphrase it.
Sounds like about
something
correct.
Around that.
Give or take a couple syllables, I think that probably is about it.
Yeah, and so we talk about that, and then he brought with him Audition. Kitty, kitty, kitty. We gotta talk about Audition.
Yes, we sure fucking did. So, like we said at the beginning, this is our last little cuts until August. You will have Monday episodes still, so you will still be hearing us every week, just not twice a week. So on that note, listeners, we want to hear from you when we come back. What's a new series we should start doing? Should we do Rape Revenge? Should we do something else? You can let us know by sending us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm McGailey Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And as of right now, you can't sign up for a Patreon because if you pause it, you can't get new people. But when we come back in August, sign up. You will have some fresh wounds awaiting for you. You'll have videos of little cuts if you sign up for it. There's like a lot of stuff you can do. So help support us when we're back.
Please send me good vibes for my project. Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
When you want to have fun and have scratchers to scratch, there's a playful way you can do just that. Scratch with the key or acrylic nail. Scratch with the quill from a porcupine tail. Use a belt buckle from your friend Lamar. Or scratch with your pick while you play guitar. You can scratch in a bunch of different playful ways. Scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day.
Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase, play, or claim.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served. Hi, I'm Detective Dave. I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood. So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished. From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.